Welcome everyone to our club excellence workshop. Today's workshop is take your club to distinguished, and we'll have two wonderful appear. Look at that. We have a group, um, our trainers. So I will start with Anna and Paul here can see here. So Anna is psychotherapist at a mental health hospital. She leads groups and does case management for depressed and anxious patients. We need you, Anna. and Anna is interested in writing and Scrabble. She likes hiking, going out with friends, watching movies, and going to theater, and of course, Toastmasters. She's currently the president of Summertail Toastmasters Club. You also call it 191. This club has more than 16 members. So I always would like to know what the secret sauce to make a strong club, club strong. And her fellow club members, I visit their club. They lovingly call her their queen bee. Um, yeah, and Paul and Anna have grown children, a daughter and a son, but they also have two cats, whom they adore. So now I come to Paul. So Paul, grown up in Sydney, Australia, lived in London for a while, and then been in the Bay Area for over 30 years. He had a background in software development, systems integration, and operations. So I see Paul is a tech guy, very typical for Bay Area. So Paul is retired. Congratulations. And is volunteer with a couple of nonprofits. So Gilead only, actually, nonprofit in software and finance roles. How Paul like to play watching movies. I wonder who he goes to movie with. But he enjoyed hiking and of course Toastmasters. He had two distinguished Toastmasters awards. And he's a VP. Again, you can see some interaction between this couple. He's a VP of the club, Summertail Toastmasters Club 191. And he also has been the club officer, trainer, because we really thank you so much for you training all so many fellow Toastmasters. Paul also has served all the officer roles, all seven of them. Now make him like all around trainer. And I when I visited the club, I still remember the other day the VP wasn't in the house, so the president Quimby announced all these things, and the last minute she said, "Oh no, I forgot. VP told me to do this, and I didn't do it. Oh, I got to do it now because otherwise tonight I'll be murdered." So you see, like, like wow, okay, the VP is powerful, even though I never met him. So today they really this couple, power couple, want to keep today's workshop really informal. So that's why we get to ask questions, interrupt them anytime because we can see each other. So we don't have to like raise hand or tag message say I have a question. We just raise a hand, they can see us. That's good enough. So with this, Paul and Anna, the podium, the stage, the Zoom is yours.
Right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you. And let me just say that we did put a plan together for this, and we do like to be interactive. Like personally, there's nothing worse than someone just reading a script or going through. Not that I'm criticizing anybody who does it, but I find that making it more interactive is useful.
Yeah.
But just to break it down, and Edna will be, she's Madam President, so I'm going to defer to her as much as possible. But what I want to do is just look at a couple of the resources available, and I'm sure knowing everybody here, you're all familiar with it, but this might be helpful for people who are reviewing it later, just looking at the recording. And then I think Edna will be going through some of the stuff. And then, we really will be making some general comments and some specific comments. But like Joyce said, if people have any questions or comments, just dive in.
Yeah.
And then if we run out of things to say after 40 minutes or 45 minutes, we can finish. We don't have to sit here singing or anything like that just to burn me out. So
You don't want to hear us.
yeah, you don't want to hear us singing. Yeah. So does that seem fair? Yeah. And everybody's okay with that approach? Yeah. Okay, great. I'd like to just share my screen, and I apologize, Joy, I didn't know. Oh, I can actually share the entire screen. So Okay, so I just wanted to just mention a couple of resources. So, honestly, the TI, Toastmasters International material, is really good in terms of covering the fundamentals. So if you're looking for kind of, didactic, teaching stuff, honestly, these manuals are better than anything that I could put together. And so there's a manual called How to Be a Distinguished Club, and you can go into Google or your preferred search engine, whatever it is, and type in Toastmasters Distinguished Club Program, and this will pop up. And basically, there's that nice gentleman smiling there, and you'll see that item number is 1111. Can everybody see that? That's Toastmasters. All the documents have item numbers if you want to find it. And this is a version from June 2024. It's always good to check, just because sometimes you look and you find some district who put the documents online and they haven't updated it for 10 years. And I've seen some people have embarrassing results. But and once again, I'm just gonna quickly look here, right? See, so they just explain the Distinguished Club program here, and what are the requirements, the goals, the terminology, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. There's certain rules about newly chartered clubs, but there's no newly chartered clubs here, so we're not going to go into that. They talk about the reports, club success plan. We will talk about that a little bit. And then district recognition program. There's details here about that and so on. And so it's not a long document, and I'm just sliding through it quickly. Once again, I'm not going to read it, but I'm just sort of showing that, you know, you can get a pretty good overview of the program. I always love this drawing. You can get a pretty good overview of the program by going through this document. Okay, so if you're someone, and once again, I'm sure that people who are watching are familiar with this, but if somebody's coming in from outside and maybe they're newer or they're not familiar, this is a great document to start with, okay? And then the next one is the club success plan. And this one is 1111A. So the district plan was 1111. This one is 1111A, okay? So, and if you want to look for this online, see, at least Joy's laughing at my stupid jokes, see? Yeah. So this is the club success plan. And actually, I really like it because the old club success plan document was a nightmare to fill out. And in District 4, we actually encourage people to do a club success plan. And normally they'll get some kind of district reward to do it. But you don't want to do it just because you get the reward. I mean, that's great. You get a district credit. Not every year, but you get a district credit. But the main thing is it's something that you do as an officer group, the club officers, but other people can be involved, where you just work out, okay, what are we going to do? And once again, there's 3 levels. There's distinguished, and you need 5 or 6 to be distinguished, at least 5, but 6 is distinguished as well. Satisfy goals, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You need 7, and 8 also is select distinguished, and then 9 is president's distinguished, and 10 obviously is president's distinguished as well. And it's funny, on the weekend I attended a presentation from Ken, and he talked about it, and he said, you really should do it because it helps the club, to do well. And he said, he's not into the bragging rights. He was very, very mature. Well, Ed and I are into the bragging rights a little bit. So it is actually kind of fun because it's nice to have a little bit of competition with nearby clubs who you might be having a friendly rivalry with. Just like, we have speech contests, or we vote on the best table topic speaker for the night. So just as long as you don't take it, go crazy, it's just kind of fun. But coming back to Ken's point, which is my real point, is that a club which does well in the Distinguished Club program tends to be successful. So you'll see more members coming in, more engagement, more retention during renewals, all those kind of things. And I've heard that from numerous Toastmasters international people, and anecdotally, that's been my experience as well.
Can I say something?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you just jump in.
So the way that we tend to approach the club success plan is we do it in the very start of the year. So the year being July 1st. And we do that we get a date together, and we find a date that works for all the offices. We get together. We've used, except for COVID, we've done it in person each time. And we put the plan together as a team. And it really gives you the incentive to, hey, this is our platform, or this is our foundation, and this is what we're trying to achieve here. So, and it isn't always the case that successful clubs follow the distinguished club program, because, like, for instance, Golden Gate doesn't, and they're pretty successful. But we have some little tidbits or hints that have led us to do well, actually, in both clubs. San Carlos and San Mateo both have been presidents distinguished for a number of years, right? So there are a little bit of tidbits of successes that we can pass along today. So some tips of how to really focus on levels and distinguished clubs.
Yeah,
so.
and Roselia raised her hand, but just before you say something, I want to be clear that Ed and I aren't claiming that it's all us,
No.
right? It's lots of officers and the whole club who does it.
We just part of the culture.
Exactly. Anyway, Roselia, just go ahead.
I just wanted to add a note that for a successful club, there are goals you want to meet, and while currently completing the club success plan is not one of those goals that the Toastmasters International has for you, that is changing, and they're going to require all of our clubs to submit a club success plan, and it will be one of those check marks that indicate that you are a successful club.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, it become a prerequisite, even for qualify. So currently, we say, oh, you get a club incentive, district incentive. But in the future, basically, it's kind of, if you don't do it, if you don't submit this plan, forget about any distinguished, which will make it,
Okay.
yeah.
I see. Interesting. That's good.
Well, that's good, because
real
we do
incentive.
We do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Back to you. Yes.
Yeah. Should I keep going? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to do, and anytime people want to yell out, you don't even have to raise your hands. You can just, yell out. But anyway, I just wanted to spend a minute just to say that, it's only 10 pages, right? So you put in some things about the values of the club officers on the second page, and then you do a little bit more about it on page 3. And you can put it together as a group, or someone can draft it and then the group can review it and edit it. You can edit it. It's editable. Someone said it was edible at a recent meeting we were at, but I hope he's not eating it. And then this comes into more of the nitty gritty. So there's basically 6 points that are educationally related, and 6 of the 10, and then I'll talk about the other ones in a minute. And basically, you want to have 4 members get a level 1, 4 level 2s, 2 more level 2s, 2 level 3s, and then a level 4, level 5, or well, actually half completion. But anyway, level 5, and then you have to do one more thing. And then DTM, that's goals 5 and 6. And these are goals, they're just something you want to achieve. And basically, ideally and I'll show another example in a minute, but basically you want to identify the people. And what I've been doing as a VP for many years is.
Are we going to go through this?
Oh, okay. All right. Sure. Let me just keep going through. See, Edna's keeping me on the straight and narrow. And then we talk about how we're going to achieve these different goals. And then we have membership goals. And for the membership goals, we want to get 4 new members. That's one goal. And then we want to get another 4 members. So depending on the size of the club, you know, one thing is you just try and get 4 in the first half of the year, you know, July through December, and then 4 January through June. And then you have training goals. You want to have at least 4 officers trained in the 2 training periods. Ideally, you want to have 7, but some clubs don't have 7 officers. So 4 is the goal. I've heard different suggestions that maybe it should be 5 rather than 4, but presently it's 4. And then we have some administrative goals. And these are sort of kind of how can I put it? They're kind of gimmies, basically. Just making sure that you submit, you know, the new officer list, and that's something that any officer can do on the TI website. It takes like, I don't know, 5 minutes. So that's kind of gimme. And then you also want to submit a certain number of dues. And then, you know, a certain number should be existing members and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, once again, that's assuming the club is doing okay in terms of renewals. That should be a gimme as well. And then you get the signatures and everything like that. So, and that's the document. And so we, as president and VPE, have been doing this for years, and I think this is a really helpful thing.
Can I ask a question? I ask question because we have many clubs in the district. They have 12 member or less, and this kind of club is almost like everyone is stretched, exhausted, and almost like a vicious cycle because the club officers feel they don't have time to go to the officer training even, and the poorly trained or not barely trained officers because they get pulled in, they say I volunteer to do this, and they do not do the correct job. So then when new member join, they don't get the best member experience, right? They don't stay. The club didn't get any new member in a year. So like this is just like feels somewhere I feel they're trapped in their own thing. So I know Summertel has been 60 member, but do you always like that? Do you have to work with small clubs and build them up?
Well, Paul and I have had discussions about this, and we believe rather strongly that some of it has to be done from the get-go, in that it's very hard to start a club with less than a certain amount of people. So if you're starting a club with less, 20 is what Toastmasters wants you to have. There's so many clubs that are not at 20. You really maybe ought to start even with 30, because then at least, if you can, or start a club when you initiate a club with between 20 and 30.
Because there's a fall off normally.
Yeah, there's a considerable fall off. And then if you start with something over 20, then you have more room for a small bunch to be trained as officers, more room for, it's a little less pressure. It's too much pressure, like you're describing, Joy. If you have a club of like 12 people and then 7 are going to be officers, it's just too hard, and fallout happens. People leave. So I think from the get-go, a club should be started with a larger number.
But I think also what Joy's getting at is, in some clubs have fallen very low because of COVID and the fallout. And both San Mateo and San Carlos did fall under 20. And so we had to put a lot of effort into getting guests in, converting them to members, making sure we had engagement. And I mean, the club success plan and the attitude that goes behind that really helps, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard, and of course, COVID was so destructive to the clubs. We also believe that the ones that are in person tend to fare a little better.
But there is a decision there, because the clubs which are hybrid or virtual, if they convert to in-person, then you will have some loss of people who are only able to attend virtually, right? So you have to have a plan in place to handle the transition.
Okay. But I know that if you're only talking about the growth of membership, then a lot of the success that at least San Mateo Toastmasters had was through social media, Instagram, really, really working hard. I mean, I was VPM last year, and I worked so closely with the president to get the guests in, to have them, contact them afterwards, thank you for your visit, come again, send off the membership. It was a year's struggle. I mean, it was really something that we put a lot of effort into.
But San Mateo is also a good location in terms of people drawn from Burlingame, San Mateo, that whole area. Now, San Carlos, which we also belong to, and Robert is actually the treasurer, doesn't draw as many guests, but San Carlos has a good conversion rate of guests, I think. And so it's doing quite well. I think are there 24 members at the moment, Robert, I think?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's good because I think, and once again, I could be wrong, but I think the base is 23. And there obviously with the renewal, there was a fall off of, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 members, and then it's come back up. So I mean, once again, it's San Carlos, obviously a different rate of people being pulled in, but the current club, the current officers are doing a great job of bringing people in, running a great meeting, so you're getting the engagement there, and getting new members in. So.
Does that kind of help you, Joy? Does that sort of answer the question?
Yes, it helped you. And also, I think Rosalia put a note in so Rosalia remind us, I think for the new year, are you talking about 2025 to 2026 year, the club success plan moving online, in a sense, now we have a PDF file. I assume when moving online, basically when we go under Club Central, you will see a club success plan right there. Yeah, because I hope that works really well, because I've been seeing your PDF file, because I see so many clubs struggling. They have all the plan, but they spend days trying to get a signature. All the officer signature
Yes.
collected.
I know it's a pain, but that's why we always do it in person, but because it is kind of a pain.
Yeah, it is. It is painful. It is painful. Like not everyone has the PDF, the editing. Yeah. So, but everyone have, but I don't. You already addressed my question, so thank you. I'll stop here. You go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I thought, Paul, we could go through this and actually just talk about how we, especially as VPE, how Paul kind of does it, because he follows quite a concrete plan. And Robert, when he left being VPE in San Carlos, he passed that plan along to Emily, who's now doing the same plan. So it's definitely
you talk about it. That'll be
distinct
fun.
plan.
Yeah.
So what he does, the first thing he does is at the beginning of the year, he approaches all the members and asks them for their goals for the year and their commitments. So every member, he sends out an email and asks every member what goal they want to achieve. And then you can start putting that spreadsheet up now.
Oh, you want me to? Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So he does that, and most of the time, most of the members respond. Is that right?
It depends on the club, but like normally I get like a 40 to 50% response rate, which is okay, right? And a lot of members say, hey, this is great, but I'm not interested. I'm just there for the vibe of the club, or I'm there for the I want to improve my table topics, stuff like that, and that's fine, right? And just to show here, I have a tab where I put all the responses from people down, just so I can remember it. I mean, it's a little bit of work, but I've been doing it for years, so I'm kind of used to it. And do you want me to describe it?
A little bit.
Okay, so just quickly, this is the first half, and I'm showing for each name what their commitments are.
He has the pathway and the date, right?
Yeah. And then when they actually achieved it, that's marked in green. And then, I can see if their future goals or if they've missed it. And then this one person, not picking on him, but he finished his PM2, but he hadn't finished his, PM3, but he hadn't finished his L2 first. So, you know, you don't get credit for the 3 until you complete the 2. So he has an action to get. So I kind of made that goal because that's great, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So my question, imagine I sit down with you and you say, Joy, um, what's your, I guess, what's your plan for this year? I'll say, I like to deliver one speech every 2 months.
Yeah.
Then would you just kind of help me or I fill in my target date and your follow up? I'm trying to see how do this implemented exactly.
Well, so what I'm going to say to you is, okay, what levels do you want to complete this year? And you
Okay.
say, I want to do level 2 and I want to do level 3. But level 3, I'm not sure, so it's a stretch goal. Or you say, I want to do 2, 3, and 4 as a stretch goal. Yeah, Rosalia.
What if they say, I want to do a speech every 2 months, but they're not going to be pathway speeches?
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
that's the other point. So he does 2 things that he's very strict about. Paul's very strict. So the first thing is give me a commitment. And the second thing is no hot, what do they call hot speeches?
Yeah,
No
it
hot
has to be
speech.
a pathway
It has to
speech.
be part of it. And then the third thing is ensure and help people get enrolled in pathways. So, you know, if people say, what's pathway? I don't know about this pathways. Then he'll help, or he'll get a mentor to help, or he'll get one of the senior people to help them get enrolled in pathways and sort of deal with their nerves about getting enrolled. So, Rosalia, that's another really important part.
Yeah, and when I was VP of San Carlos, I could do it all myself. San Mateo's bigger, so we actually have a kind of a mentorship person. He volunteered, and so he helps me out, and he looks after all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and the thing is, then, you know, we might get some protests like, well, I have some speeches in mind. I don't want to do something that's asked of me at Pathways. And then we reassure them, which is a very important point. It always helped me that anything they have in mind, they can probably find a way of organizing it and creating it to fit into that speech, like speech about a purpose, speech about yourself, speech
Right.
about a leadership role. You know, you can make it fit.
And I know Kat very well. She's a member of San Mateo, and she told me she's willing to bet that she can always identify a project that will satisfy any subject that someone has. So we kind of have a standing bet. And so far, so if I get stuck, I ask Kat, and she always tells me. So she's very good. Let me just finish with this slide, and then I'll stop sharing. So then I just map that across to this. So these are the 6 DCP things. So you can see we've achieved all of them. So that's it for that. So that's just how I track it. And then you're going to say at 6 months in, I send it out. And
Yeah. And then the other
stop
thing
sharing
about
now?
it,
Yeah, stop.
well, you can stop sharing.
Okay.
The other important point that I want to say, so no hot seat speeches. In fact,
hot seat speech.
when in San Mateo, someone raised their hand and said, I have a hot seat speeches, and Paul said, nope, we're not accepting that.
But I
Then the
did
other
say
point,
we can help you to
map it
to
a pathway speech.
Yeah.
And then another important point that we do is Paul will celebrate a person making their goal or getting a level.
Yeah,
so
or a pathway. Yeah, we
level of
celebrate
pathways.
it.
And
Yeah.
in San Carlos, Emily does the same thing. So he will send out a celebratory email, but he'll also emphasize that when they achieve a level, the club gets a point, so that people know that they're not doing it just for themselves. It's a really altruistic move to help the club out, and it does motivate people. And then you know, he sends out the email, everyone says congratulations. So that's a real motivational thing too.
I think Robert achieved something just recently, and there was an email recognizing him for completing a level.
Yeah.
And everybody chimed in and said,
Congratulations,
Robert. And that feels good, doesn't it, Robert?
So those are some of the important points. The other thing that Paul does as VPE is he reviews it every month. He quickly reviews the pipeline. So do you want to say what that means?
Yeah, I mean, once again, we're focusing on the educational points, but we do want to talk about the other points as well a little bit. But on the educational side, yeah, I just very quickly look at it. I don't, because of the way I lay out the chart, it's very easy to see who's expecting to do something by, the end of the following month. And then, sometimes people finish ahead of schedule. Great. Sometimes they're running behind. And so I write a really nice email. It's really nice because I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, but I'm just like, oh, you had a commitment to finish your L1 by November 30, and it's December 15. So what's up, and like, can I do anything to help, or
Yeah.
what's this?
You're
And
happy to
people,
help.
yeah, and I mean, it's just helping people to be held accountable in the nicest way. And normally that encourages people to just reset the day, right? They know that somebody else is watching, and it's just helps people to follow through.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I have a question. So sound like you let the members set their pace, right? Because I say I'll do this or complete this, and then it's up to me to sign up, because if I know where I'm going, I should sign up for speeches. And
Yeah.
you are not sign up on behalf of me or something, or kind of rotate all
Oh,
the.
no. Yeah.
No, you don't do
I
that. Okay.
in the past,
Yeah.
a long time ago, I used to actually sign up for people. Everybody had to speak once every month, or once every 2 months, and first of all, it's too much work, and secondly, you're not holding people accountable for them doing the work of their own development, right? If they see it as something that they're doing, they're much more likely to do. It's empowering, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'd like to ask, how ahead of, for example, if you look at next week or the next week holiday, but think of in the next
Yeah.
few meetings, would you have speaker all signed up, or you
Yeah.
still need to go around say,
Yeah, we
hey, I
have
have.
people signed up through the end of February.
Well, two reasons for this. One is that both clubs are pretty big, especially San Mateo, but San Carlos too. And in San Carlos, people, and then the other reason, of course, is that the VPE passes around a sign-up sheet every meeting, and we know that. And they can sign up for how many weeks in advance? Like,
Well, through the end of February.
through the end of February, and then he'll add March in about a month. So then, yeah, things are filled up. In fact, that's
Very
one
nice.
little
Very nice. Thank
problem
you.
with a really big club, that there sometimes aren't enough speaking slots.
Yeah. But sometimes people cancel, and if they cancel with enough notice, that's okay. We do actually have a penalty in San Mateo for historical reasons, and if somebody cancels in less than 7 days, then they do kind of get on a no speaking list for 2 months, just so there's a little bit, but that's communicated to everybody, they understand. So people but the good thing there is that means that people are much more likely to cancel with adequate notice. Nobody wants to cancel 2 days before.
Then the only other thing, just two little points. After 6 months, VPE again will send out more of a general email saying, okay, now it's the next 6 months. So what are your goals for this? And you'll also contrast to the beginning of the year. And again, you get a response from about 30 or 40%. So not.
Yeah, like 40 to 50%. Yeah.
And then once a month, Paul will speak at the business meeting about the levels achieved, all the levels achieved. So
to
that's
acknowledge and celebrate people.
And again, we talk about how it helps the club in their success. So that's it.
Well, I think we've done a lot on the educational goals, but I do want to touch on the other ones as well. Yeah, so there's this report, and I'm hoping everybody knows about this one, right? It's the club dashboard, and it just tells you where your club fits in, the region, district, division, blah, blah, blah. what's your base, which was the membership as of June 30, July 1, and what is today and required. You either need to have 20 members or a net growth of 3 new members on base. It used to be a different number before COVID, but Toastmasters lowered it. You can see here the goals met, right? So 5 for distinguished, which is pretty good for the middle of December, right? I mean, San Carlos is really on track. So, and then you can see good progress happening here. Just one more L1 needed, right? That'll give it a 6. And then maybe, you know, I'm not sure if there'll be 4 people, but anyway, they'll get that. But then down here, right? So once again, 5 new members in that period. So only 3 more needed to get the second point. 7, all 7 officers trained, and 3 were trained already. So just 1 more to get the point there. And they've already turned in the the membership renewal dues on time and the club officer list. So, Edna, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the new members, just because you were the VPM in different clubs and you've really been focusing on that.
Well, I think first I want to say that these are some of the other ways of getting some of those points for the Distinguished Club program that Paul wanted to cover. We do a lot of focus on the educational, but of course these are really important too. So some, like you said, it's just admin, you know, sending the club
Gimmies,
officer.
basically, the
list.
10th goal is
New members is always it's always a challenge. I mean, what can we say? We all know that. It's a challenge. And we do it in various different ways, you know, emphasis on social media, emphasis. We've had open houses. I think in both clubs, we've had 1 open house, 1 to 2 open houses a year. They're kind of a pain to organize, and they're not always that successful, you know, but we have gotten a couple of new. San Carlos's most successful open house was when we did it in the San Carlos library. So people wandered up to the 2nd floor, and we got a number of new members for that.
4 or 5. Maybe.
Yeah. And so it's just a variety of methods.
Social media, Nextdoor. Edna's a master of Nextdoor.
Well, Nextdoor I advertised the open house in.
Yeah,
that's about all I used it for. Instagram, of course. But I was thinking we only have 15 minutes that we could sort of open it to questions and stuff.
Oh, I can start a question. I guess my question is, if you have a new member coming, actually, so when some new members decide it's a prospective member, they come in and they look at it. Actually, I've come back probably not the Summertail, because Summertail is such a large club, and I think no other club. I mean, the other one probably can compare to is Golden Gate, but I'm trying to think some club like San Carlos, when you do not have like the prime location, if someone come in, what do you feel really capture them? You have someone coming in and stay. What would you say to them? How do you follow up with them to make them even just want to come back?
So as VPM, that was very much in my wheelhouse. We just follow a variety of methods. First of all, be very warm and welcoming when they come in. Approach them, have them sign a guest book, welcome them in, and then always get them to speak in the beginning and the end. So in the beginning, what's your name and how did you find the club, and welcome, everyone claps. And at the end, you know, what did you think of this session? How did you find it? And then a lot of it is energy level, you know, the prospective member is looking for something that, you know, they're coming in, often they're scared to death of public speaking. So they want something that's warm and friendly and feels supportive. We hear the word supportive, you know, and so if people are clapping and saying, hey, yeah, you rock, and high energy and just kind of very supportive, then the person feels more welcome. And then we don't forget about them. So as VPM, I always did a follow-up note pretty fast after the meeting You know, it was great to have you as a guest. We'd love you to come again. If you're, and then, you know, dependingly, we might say, if you're interested in membership, we can talk about that, or we might just see if they come back and then talk about membership. So we don't want to like push on them, but we do want them to encourage them to think about it. So it's a matter of involving them, letting them speak in the meeting, like to introduce themselves and to tell about the meeting, and also just following up, not letting them drop.
You know, we've heard from a few people we've had at guests that at both clubs that they've gone to other clubs and they didn't feel super welcomed, and then they never heard anything more. You know, there was no follow-up. You know.
Okay.
But people are pretty good about that. Like when we visit other clubs, which we have, people seem pretty warm and friendly.
Yeah, but we tend to pick the
Bigger
successful clubs because we're kind of always looking for new ideas, right? So we were in London, so we went to
the
three
two biggest clubs in London we went to.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we went to 3 meetings, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosalia.
Okay, so this is for you, Edna, as the president.
Okay.
How do you ensure that all your officers are on board with the club success plan and getting the club to distinguished?
Well, when I accepted the president's role, because of course I was following Jack, who's like a legend in Toastmasters, I said, I'm only going to do it if Paul's a VPE. And you know, I said that. You know, VPE is really the kind of the power behind the scenes. You know, he gets the next things going. He gets everybody signing up for pathways. I just have to be the, hey, we're gonna have fun here. We're gonna learn. This is great. So I relied quite heavily on someone else, like Paul, like the VPE
and the VPM.
and the VPM. Yeah, especially those two, and of course VPM working with the treasurer to get them involved in pathways, to get the levels started, to get the levels going, to sign up for speeches, you know, all of the various tasks that are part of the Distinguished Club.
But I did want to say one thing. Edna's kind of being humble. She's not humble bragging, but she's really being humble because all of that operational stuff is important, but the tone of the meeting, the tenor of the meeting, people having fun, wanting to come back, that is very, very important. And, you know, and Edna's good at it. So
thank you. We also, at least in San Mateo, not so much in San Carlos, although we do in San Carlos too, but we have some fun outside activities. So actually in San Carlos, like Robert can attest to, we've had a party in the park. We're having a party next week. In San Mateo, we've gone bowling, we've done karaoke, we've done another big party. So it's just kind of fun. And because it's a big club, someone stood up to someone actually volunteered. Someone came to me and volunteered and said, I like organizing social stuff. And it was a guy. Can I do that? And I said, you betcha. So I don't have to do it. Someone has actually taken that on and he just happens to like it. So I said, please don't ever leave.
So spreading it around to everybody, not just the officers, because it's amazing the skill sets that
people come in with skill
have.
sets
And one thing I forgot to mention was like in San Mateo has actually, you know, achieved all the education goals, but that was 14 levels across 11 people. So it wasn't like it was 1 or 2 people getting 30 levels. It's actually spread, right? Like my ideal would be 14 out of 14, but you know, 11 out of 14 is pretty good. So looking for that kind of spread is great. And that means you're trying to involve everybody in the club, not just you know, well, you know what I'm talking about,
the
right?
veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep going, keep getting. I don't know if anyone has a question, but I do have a question for Robert. So how do you get Robert volunteer to become a club officer? Oh, the question is because there's so many people, I guess, are going there. There are lots of officer burnout in the smaller clubs, and then come back to how do you get people sign up to be officer and really feel they're supported and they're willing to do it. The reason I go to Robert because I look at the other one like I know many people are on Toastmaster leadership many years, but I haven't talked to Robert before. So Robert, how long have you been a club officer?
This is my second year as treasurer.
Okay, okay. Um, so how did you get? I mean, did Paul and just talk, say, hey, we need a treasure, and you say, hey, I want to do it. Oh, or they have to twist your arm to do that.
No, there wasn't arm twisting involved. A number of our officers highlighted the possibilities of different roles, and they actually hosted an informational meeting about what the different roles did.
So is that a club meeting or like tell me how they went, like how did they sell that this club officer make you guys? So
I
how they do it? Yeah.
what was it? I can't recall if this was when Renee was still president or after Edna had taken over, but
Ah,
I recall we had
Wasn't it an extended officer meeting? Yeah.
it. I think it was more of an informational meeting for people who were
Okay.
interested in becoming officers.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I think Renee gave that info. She led that informational meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I attended that and decided to give it a try.
Yeah. And thank you. And Robert's great.
Phenomenal.
Doing a great
He's
job as
really good.
treasurer. Yeah.
Yeah. Being the program quality director, I always wonder some ways I can take something from really strong club like yours, both clubs, and just rub into the ones like they're struggling. But
But Joy, I went to a speech you gave where you talked about you kept getting all these roles because people were twisting you. You come home and talk to your family and say, I was elected president, and they'd be so impressed. And then you were elected area director and division director, and you never told them it was just you, you know. So
yeah, true.
remember that
That's
speech you
so
gave?
true.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I give that speech. It's thank you for remembering that.
Oh,
But
I'll never forget that speech. It was
We
pretty
enjoyed
funny.
it.
Yeah, we
I
enjoyed it.
enjoy it, yeah.
You-
But I just feel like how do I, because we're working with such strong club, we're also 50% of the club like under 12. When I say under 12, so many of them like 8. Not yeah, I'm like, oh, right, because we're on the edge, like just become even not in good standing. Um as Paul you said, I mean, so many strong clubs, when you look at them, they all already follow that. They already reach that goal, even though they didn't intentionally say, I need to finish the 6 goals of educational, I need to have the club of the trend, but they're doing that without taking the points, but they're already doing that there. So almost the path to success is so well written. The
Right,
map is
true.
there, the lights all lit up, but it's still not everyone can follow it. So I'm trying to think of what makes, yeah. Uh you're exemplary. I'm like, how do I, but because people they're so not ready. They say we don't want to do that. That's we do it my way. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll stop my rambling. Back to you. Yes.
Well, when I was an area director, I had a number of great clubs, but then I had one club which was some part of SAP, but it wasn't SAP, it was some affiliated organization, and they had like 35 or 40 members, and they had 0 points, and we couldn't work it out. And so I kept trying to visit, and they wouldn't let me. So I think I finally turned up when their meeting was, and I just called them to, I was pretty pushy. And so they let me in. They had a great meeting. They had a wonderful meeting, such great engagement. And then I talked to the president. She was trying to get rid of me. And so she just basically said they'd had really bad experiences with the district, their area director or division director. So they just decided to do their own thing. And they were doing the programs, they just weren't reporting it for credit because they didn't care. And so I begged them to let me come back in 6 months' time. And I think they managed to do one level because I talked to them and one person decided to do it. But then the next area director got a little bit more missionary with them, so then they wouldn't let them in again. I think that club's gone now for whatever reason. But anyway, it's so you can't always assume that clubs that aren't doing well on the DCP, but generally, if you do well on the DCP, it's encouraging that the club is probably doing well.
Yes, true, that's true. But I second you, what you said, because there are quite a few clubs I know. Often the president has been with Toastmasters for some year, and they decide they'll do their own way. They think they're so smart, right? They know this inside and out that they have their own way. And many of them actually they are the corporate sponsor clubs.
Yeah.
They're financially they have no problem, right? They have the venue, they have the meeting space, they have everything, they have financial support. They can even occasionally feed their people. But inevitably, with time, they less, and then
Because
end up.
the leaders retire or get laid off or whatever, and they don't have the continuity.
Yeah, Paul
Yeah.
worked at Ring Central and he started a club there. And it was good while you were there and a few people, but now it's gone.
It's just, yeah, I just noticed it's been suspended. And but it kept going, like I think it kept going for 6 years, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
When leadership
Which is
went.
pretty good for a corporate club, but you know,
I, I will add this for corporate clubs. If they are distinguished, they can show that to their sponsors saying, look at this, we are meeting our goals of developing our members. We are a
Yeah.
distinguished club or a select distinguished club. And that may or may not, but sometimes it does give you a nice little bonus pickup on how much more they sponsor you. So they
yeah,
might give you a little bit extra sponsorship. So back in the day before the club folded because the company failed, if the club did well, we had no issue in getting the corporation to sponsor the officers to go to the Toastmasters International Convention. And that can
yeah,
be pricey. So if you have a corporation doing that for you, the way to show them the benefits of it is to show them through the Distinguished Club success and showing that you are succeeding in that retrospect. And it's just a measurement too you can use at that moment in time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when at
Yeah.
Ring Central we went into the head of HR. I think she was a senior vice president or maybe chief of, people, but whatever. And so we started doing the pitch, and after about 3 minutes, she stopped us and said, "How much is it going to cost?" And we told her, and she's like, "Approved," and that was it.
Wow.
Because she said, if you knew how much I'm spending on development, this is just nothing. And so it
Yeah.
sounds good. We also had another sponsor. I think the guy running legal had been in Toastmasters for many years. So between the two of them, they were just like, yeah, do it. So money was never an issue. And then we got them to encourage. And yeah, I think we got up to 40 or something, which was
That's
good for a
great.
corporate club. So.
Yeah. I see it is already 8 o'clock, so let's wrap up. And Paul and Anna, thank you so much for a wonderful workshop on how to take our clubs to distinguished. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And see you next time.